Non-projectile based melee weapons are renowned for being underpowered in Terraria. However, with multiple different buffs issued as part of the 1.4 update, are they really that bad anymore? Today, we're going to be looking at two swords in particular which are usually ignored completely, the Breaker Blade and the Keybrand. Both are rather large swords which don't fire any projectiles, but does this mean they are completely useless? Not necessarily. Both weapons include special attributes which make them more useful than they appear on the surface. Let's delve into this. Starting with the Breaker Blade. The Breaker Blade has always been one of them weapons you wish not to drop from the wall of flesh. It's usually outshined by weapons like the Clockwork Assault Rifle and the Laser Gun. This might not still be the case though. As mentioned, to get your hands on one, all you'll need is a Wall of Flesh treasure bag. This will drop a Pwn Hammer, an emblem, some healing potions and one of 4 weapons, one of which being the Breaker Blade, giving you a 25% chance per boss. At this stage in the game, the world has just got a lot harder and you'll be most likely looking at trying to obtain a powerful ranged or magic weapon. The Breaker Blade just what could it, right? Well, for you melee players, maybe it just might. Its tooltip states that it will deal more damage against unhurt enemies, but fails to mention that this is a massive 100% increase if the enemy has more than 90% health, which theoretically means this weapon has a base damage of 86 on its first strike. Not bad for a Wall of Flesh drop. In testing, it absolutely pummels these slimes, with first strike crits in the mid 400s. As you can see, its second hit only deals about half the damage there. The same can be said for more bulky enemies like mummies. Without a crit, it's aiming around the 200 damage mark, which instantly halves the enemy's health. It's also worth mentioning that this Breaker Blade is legendary and running a few melee accessories to boost its potential damage for demonstration. Something else the Breaker Blade excels in is its pure size. It's actually the largest sword in the game from a reach point of view, obviously excluding projectiles. This makes it fantastic at dealing with groups of enemies holding the player, as it can knock back ones further away. Here you can see it making short work of a pirate invasion due to its massive size and high damage. The only problem is, a close range melee weapon like this is always going to struggle against range attacks. The constant barrage of gunshots actually delay my killing as I can't get close enough in time, limiting its potential. I think it's time we moved on to the Breaker Blade's big brother, the Keybrand. The Keybrand is in many ways the polar opposite to the Breaker Blade, which I think makes it superior. The Keybrand is a hard mode post-Terra sword which has a 1 in 200 chance to drop from Blue Armoured Burns, Hell Armoured Burns and Rusty Armoured Burns in the dungeon. It's pretty easy to get a hold of due to the high spawn rate in the dungeon and the sheer amount of stuff that drops it. The Keybrand works by dealing increased damage against previously injured enemies. When hitting enemies that have less than 10% health remaining, it deals a maximum of 150% additional damage for a total of 250%. This means it can absolutely melt for enemies with quite high hit points as damage increases exponentially. You can especially see the effect in play here against multiple mimics. As you can see, the final few strikes take off the largest chunk of their health. Even though these are weaker enemies, there are certain strikes which deal upwards of 900 damage on a weapon with only a base of 85. So then, saying that both the Breaker Blade and Keybrand are effective on single and multi-target scenarios is all well and good, but how do they perform against bosses you would expect to fight at the time of acquiring each weapon? First, we're going to look at the Breaker Blade versus the Queen Slime. Let's just say it reminds me why the melee class is so difficult early on. The problem is, a lot of Terraria's bosses are designed to be fought from a distance, like a mini bullet hell. For me to deal any damage with this weapon, I have to get into the boss's face, risking taking damage myself just to hit the damn thing. The same story is true for the Keybrand. Considering this is a post-Terra weapon, you just have absolutely no chance to defeat a rapid moving boss like Duke Fishron. It's essentially like trying to kill it with a Thorns potion on. You're going to die yourself before you've dealt any real damage. If anyone's managed to kill Fishron with the Keybrand, please share because I would absolutely love to see it. This isn't to say that the Keybrand is completely useless though. As previously suggested, it isn't half bad at regular combat, even with its limited range. Its damage can get pretty high and take stuff out very quickly. But then again, you have to ask the question, why bother using the Keybrand or the Breaker Blade when there are so many other good options that deal similar DPS from a safe distance? And the reality is, if you want your best chance of taking out bosses and keeping your health high, you don't want to be heading within 6 feet of the enemies. But these weapons are far from terrible. If you've ignored these weapons till this point, I'd recommend giving them a go in your next playthrough. They can actually be quite fun. Thanks for watching. For more Terraria content like this, drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.